All right. Welcome back, or welcome. Episode 11 of Harrison Talks Pod. Uh, Thank you for joining me. My name is Harrison, and every week I come on and talk to you about NBA basketball and whatever else might be going on this week. This week there are no guests, no big intros, so it's just me and the listeners today. I hope that you've had a great holiday, great Christmas for those who are celebrating, and I'm recording this in Thailand on a sunny afternoon on New Year's Eve. So I have some basketball to talk about today. I'm looking super casual, feeling super casual for the new year. So let's have a nice talk about some NBA basketball, talking about some Christmas Day games, some about Jimmy Butler, Dorian Finney-Smith and the Lakers, uh, what's going on with the Kings and those red hot New York Knicks. But first, I'll talk a little bit about Christmas Day. Can't believe it's been a week already. The week between Christmas and New Year's is either a blur or a rush, or it just kind of depends on what's going on in your life at that time. I did not do my usual of staying up all night and watching all the games. I watched about two and a half of the games. The two evening games. Um, let's talk about that. So, of course, the big evening ABC 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening game was the Lakers and the Warriors. It is their fourth time being matched up on Christmas Day, and I can't believe it. And I think it shows it's a great snapshot of what the NBA is and what it's going through. If you watch the NBA on Christmas for any amount of time, that's a good idea of what they're sort of going through, good, bad, and constructive. Of course, um, my opinion is that if you're going to have LeBron and Steph at this point playing at this level, then you don't change too much. You give the people what they want. You give the common people what they want. It's Christmas Day. Everyone's watching basketball. Hey, of course, we'll talk about those numbers because the NFL on Netflix, and we love those numbers. But um, hey, overall, I should have started by saying all 5 games. Whether I watched it live or I went back in the afternoon for me and watched it later, it was just a very entertaining day of basketball and very high quality basketball as well. That's the most important. But getting back to this idea and perhaps sort of issue with having the Lakers and the Warriors in that prime time spot. Fourth time on Christmas. Everyone's watching. Football is over. Perhaps festivities are wearing down. No doubt that this is going to be the most watched game of the entire day. Now, you could give it to an up and comer, perhaps Anthony Edwards. We saw what Victor Wembanyama did in his debut, setting a franchise record for points on Christmas Day. But we'll talk about that more a little bit actually at the end. Could have given it to Wimby, given him a bigger audience, but let's be honest. Ideally, you give the common people, not the hardcore fans that are going to watch like me no matter what. You give them what they want, and I think in the meantime, you find just as many ways possible to promote those other stars in that league that are younger, up and coming, and are going to be around for perhaps a decade after, these other superstars are out. It's just sort of depends at this point. So, what does it mean? Whether it's not Christmas Day, but whether it's giving those younger players more national spots, not Christmas Day. And whether it's just trying to get those names and those faces in front of audiences that are not watching basketball as much and perhaps are only watching national games. Or I brought up last week that, get Anthony Edwards on all of the late night shows. Get them on programs that I would support but don't necessarily watch. But my parents would watch it, and my parents' friends would watch it, and they would learn about him for the first time. So I think my answer is you don't change too much. It was a great day of basketball. You don't change too much. And if next year Steph is playing at this level and LeBron is still in the league at this sort of level, you run it back and you do it again. And I will watch every matchup between these two players as possible until the end, because there's no doubt that we are on more of the end than we are the other side. So, who knows how many more series that we have. And of course, watching them in the Olympics playing together was very special. So there's that. Uh, Great day of basketball. That's what the focus should be. Don't focus so much on the narratives. Um, try to enjoy it. And hey, um, NFL on Christmas, I think is a great idea. And Netflix is great too because hey, I have it. I mean, that's easy for me. It seems like the broadcast they did pretty well, but the games were just not so good. So I hope to see the same thing next year. Perhaps I will be up watching it, not sleeping. And before I forget, two more things. Have Christmas Day jerseys. I'm not too big on debating every time there's a new jersey whether we have too many or whether this one's good, whether the court, the alternate court is good, but it's Christmas, it's Christmas. Why not, you know, give them an alternate, make it special, make it the one day, and give us some games on Christmas Eve if they're going to run it back and only put a very weird bowl game that was 6 overtimes on Christmas Eve. Give us two Christmas Eve games. I mean, if we're going back to my original point of this segment, uh, put Wimby on Christmas Eve. Put Anthony Edwards on Christmas Eve. Put the Magic, put the Rockets, something like that. All right, and getting into some trades now, or lack of, I should say. The response from Pat Riley is very interesting, and I'll try to only do maybe 3 minutes on this. Pat Riley came out, I guess, say 4 days ago, whatever day that was, after Christmas. Pat Riley came out and said he's addressing the rumors and the speculations, and that they are not trading Jimmy Butler, and that he's addressing it because it has become a distraction. So, two things here. One, Pat Riley doesn't usually talk too much or address media too much. I think it's always in the preseason, I know. So that was unique. And also, I was trying to think of if we've had any players recently have trade rumors that were false that got addressed by either a team president, team owner, um, head of operations, whatever it might be. I don't think so. I don't think we have had anything like that before, so it's pretty unique in that sense. Of course, Miami does things differently, which has resulted in success depending on how you're measuring it. And the 5 years of having Jimmy Butler on the Heat have, of course, resulted in 2 finals appearances, but no finals wins. And I'm sure that they would trade Butler if the right offer was there. But as we've explored on this podcast, as you've heard other people talk about it, this is not a great year for trades. Breaking it down, we might have a few, including like having the Suns trade Bradley Beal only if Bradley Beal waived his no trade clause and agreed to play in Miami, but then Miami would have to be in the realities that they have Bradley Beal and they might be sacrificing a bit better offense for not so good defense and would still not be in the top of the East. So there really wasn't that many options there. But hey, it's a business. It's Miami. I'm sure if it was, and there was some team that was looking towards a $52 million player option for Jimmy Butler next season, it would be different. But it's just not there. So, not to be too redundant or to reiterate too much of what I talked about last week, Miami understands the situation better than anyone else, and perhaps looking towards how the Clippers have done. The Clippers being third in the West right now, and losing Paul George in the offseason. That was a decision that I had criticized. Um, it's easy to criticize the Clippers, but it's worked out for them. So they might be looking at if Jimmy Butler picks up the player option and leaves in free agency, it might not be the worst thing. It might not be the worst rebuild. And if Jimmy Butler wants to explore free agency next season, chances are he's not going to find a better deal. I'm still going with the restructure, offering Jimmy a 3-year deal after this season, paying him $40 million a season opposed to $52 million next season. So, of course, Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton were traded from the Nets to the Lakers for D'Lo and 3 second-round picks. No first-round picks involved in this deal, and I very much think that the Lakers are not done. I'm kind of jumping ahead though. My initial reactions. I don't like to give Rob Pelinka credit on anything, but I will give him credit the same as I would any other front office person, anyone in his position. Of course, he's done well, but I'm not overreacting. I'm not trying to underreact. I'm just trying to give him credit, and that's it. Um, because it's fair, it's nuanced, anyways. And I'm happy that Dorian Finney-Smith gets to play on not only a playoff team, but at this point, I think it's a contending team, as in, possibly top 4 in their conference. Dorian Finney-Smith seems excited about it as well, mentioning that, on the Nets, uh, struggling to be in the playoffs or play-in, but on the Lakers, same thing, possibly being a contender right away. Dorian Finney-Smith has had a great season, best shooting season at least in the last few years, best shooting season as a net. almost career highs in 3-point percentage, career highs in efficiency, who offer much improved defense, of course, than having D'Angelo Russell. And I think his offensive play style alongside LeBron James, possibly alongside the coaching style of JJ Redick, will fit in very well. Pick and pop threes, hitting threes in transition, running the floor well, uh, offering length. I think Dorian Finney-Smith is just someone who fits on the Lakers, the same reason why he would fit on the other 29 teams well. Play defense, shoot threes, make the most out of every possession, every minute. So that part I'm happy about. And for D'Lo, uh, I know he receives lots of slack. It's and debate what you want about how much of it is justified or not. Of course, being the 19-year-old kid alongside Nick Young, which so long ago now, to uh, being traded so many times now, including being traded back to the Lakers and then back to the Nets. Getting away from all of that, this was more about redundancy. Because there was even parts this season where D'Lo helped fill in on offense and did a decent job. But his play style, no doubt, alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis, having the ball in his hands, this just does not make very much sense. And unfortunately, he's on an expiring contract going to the Nets that probably have no intentions for him at all. They're looking more towards being in that lottery. So, my predictions: D'Lo will be on a whole different team next season. Uh, Dorian Finney-Smith on a player option next season will be offered an extension and come back for the Lakers. Huh, I wonder if LeBron will come back now, huh? But anyways, and I should mention that Shake Milton, of course, is in this deal. And just for his sake, even though I'm not sure with the rotations how many minutes he will get for the Lakers, being on 3 different teams last season, I just hope that he can find some sort of consistency with some team. He is on a great contract, $3 million a year through 2027, I believe. Yes, 2027. And that's all I really have to say about him. Um, and as I mentioned, the Lakers might not be done, which leads me into the next team I want to talk about, unfortunately, which is the Sacramento Kings. And if I was, let's move on. I wrote the segment before um, this game. Well, for me, it was just now, but last night, where the Kings just beat the Mavericks. Mavericks were down, of course, they're down Luka Doncic for about a month, and they were missing Kyrie, who has been great, um, a great secondary player next to Luka. They filled in pretty well without him. Along with this game, the Mavericks are 7-3 without Luka this season. It was a 10-point win for the Kings. Before that, the Kings had lost 6 in a row. And of course, they fired Mike Brown. Doug Christie is now 1-1 as the Kings head coach or interim or whatever we call it now. The firing of Mike Brown is unexpected, of course. I think it's unexpected, but it is the NBA. And I should say the unexpected part for me, I guess, would be how many head coaches came out immediately and addressed the situation and came out in support of Mike Brown. So, was there drama between him and star players? I don't know. So, we move on from that. In this game, Fox had a great game with 33 points. Sabonis had 17 points, 16 rebounds, 5 players in double figures. They are now 14 and 19 on the season. As I mentioned, they had lost 6 in a row. Currently 12 in the West. 4 games below their expected win-loss, according to Basketball Reference. They are 17th in defense, 8th in offense, 15th in net rating. One of, I would say, 2 or 3 teams in the West who have either stayed the same or gotten worse. Perhaps stayed the same. Of course, they've picked up DeMar DeRozan. Um, we can say that it hasn't worked out as expected yet. Hopefully, the offense picks up. The offensive efficiency picks up. But if anything, even if they have stayed the same overall, the West has gotten better, and it is a very tough road ahead. With the firing of Mike Brown, it makes it even more unsure about what the Kings are expected to do this season. So the Kings can certainly lean on their offense. They have a top 10 offense in the league right now, and have room for improvement. DeRozan is at 20.9 points per game on 15.8 attempts. Shoots 29% from three at a very low attempt rate, making only 0.6 makes a game. So, if anything, he is underperforming on offense, but is on a decent contract, making $23.4 million this season. But would still like to see more from him as the right now the third highest scorer in the Kings. While the Kings could get serious interest for Sabonis, is this the season they do look at trading De'Aaron Fox? De'Aaron Fox is on an expiring deal next season. You're most likely looking at keeping DeRozan. You're most likely looking at keeping Sabonis. So I know the Kings do not want to lose De'Aaron Fox for nothing. If you're not going to offer him a deal this offseason, I think you have to look towards trading him now. I think that you really should. And like Sabonis, there would be tons of interest for Fox. Only a few teams I think are realistic, and they all are in the West. 2 of those I'd like, and I'll talk about. First one is the Lakers. No surprise there. Lakers have Rui Hachimura, $18 million expiring this year. Vanderbilt with a player option, $11 million with a player option in 27-28. Max Christie, $8 million with a player option also in 27-28. And if anything, they do have that Austin Reeves deal, which has remained one of the best in the NBA. He's making $14 million this year, player option next season. That's the one they want to hold on to. Possible draft capital. Still, they did not give up any first round picks with the Dorian Finney-Smith trade. The other one that I like a little bit more, and I think even has even more assets, is the Houston Rockets. They have Reed Shepard, $10 million player option team options beginning in 26-27. Jock Landale, $8 million, team option 26-27. Cam Whitmore, $3 million, team option beginning next season. They also have contracts like Jeff Green they could throw in to make some sort of deal. With salaries, there's many different options of how this could work. Rockets could offer up to 2 first-round picks and 2 first-round swaps. So if they were looking towards it seriously, there's lots of different ways they can make it work. The other possible fun one is the Spurs, and it just kind of depends. Of course, they spent Wemby's rookie season without a real point guard when they probably should have spent it like they do this season, where they could have been in the playoffs or playoff contention, I'll say. So, will they look towards getting Wimby a serious sidekick, I'll say. Let's call it sidekick. Why not? All right, and last one today. Let's end on a good note. The Knicks have won 8 straight. Of course, because we do not include the loss against the Atlanta Hawks in the NBA Cup quarterfinals. They are 23-10, and they recently won against the Magic, so they are currently 3rd in the East, 2nd in offense, 13th in defense, 5th in net rating. They had 2 wins in the past 3 days against the Wizards. No surprise there. The win last night, Karl-Anthony Towns had 32 points, 13 rebounds. Josh Hart, 3rd triple-double of the season, 23 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists. All starters in double figures. Team had 34 assists to 19 turnovers. Before that, Jalen Brunson had a memorable 55-point game, second highest in his career, in an overtime win against the Wizards, 136 to 132. 42 of his points came in the second half and overtime. Brunson also had 9 assists and hit 16 of the 17 free throws. Karl-Anthony Towns, 30 points in this game. Mikal Bridges, 21 points. Overall, the team shot very poorly, 10 for 40 from three. They won against the Magic, and they played against the Spurs on Christmas Day, which I talked about briefly at the beginning. This is a good example of how the Knicks have relied on different players stepping up and being big on offense, mostly in the starting lineup. On this game on Christmas Day, Mikal Bridges had 42 points, which is a season high. He's averaging 18.2 points per game on the season. Knicks won this game 117 to 114. They had the first afternoon game of Christmas. I mentioned Wemby had 41 points, most of any Spur on Christmas Day. Second most now is Marcus Aldridge with 33 points in 2016. He also had 18 rebounds, 4 blocks, and has at least 2 highlights a game that makes people just kind of shake their heads. But talking about the Knicks, though. Talking about the Knicks right now. Post Karl-Anthony Towns trade, this is pretty close to the best case scenario. Having one of the best offenses in the league, and 3rd in the East is probably the best that you would expect. If you're a Knicks fan, I mean, you should just be thrilled right now. So, not an easy road ahead, of course, in the East, but I fully expect them to be top 4. Wanted to talk about them briefly today because, like the Kings, haven't talked about the Knicks too much. Excited to see Brunson do so well. Excited to see Bridges do well on the Nova Knicks minus Isaiah Hartenstein, whatever. And Karl-Anthony Towns was begging the last 2 seasons before this to get him on a different team. I thought it was going to be the Hawks. Nope, it was the Knicks. So I was at least right with the conference. I hope all of you have a great new year, great New Year's Day. Enjoy it. I will see you next week, maybe with a guest, but definitely with some more basketball talk. Hairs and Talks Pod. Thank you so much.